Hope everybody had a really nice, safe holiday and a great Christmas. Lance Riesland, Coach Riz, hanging out in studio with me as well. All righty, well, we got to jump into it with both feet. There's no radio guy segue within me to do this other than the Cavaliers came up short on Christmas Day, 126-124 in Madison Square Garden, choked away. I believe that was a 17-point lead there, Jax, against the New York Knicks. How do we feel about that this morning at 216-474-0092? Because I do think there's two lenses that you can look at this loss through. You can look at this and say, well, this was really embarrassing. You were up 17 in the fourth quarter. You get out-rebounded and out-physicaled late in the game where you were doing that to the Knicks. Like, there was a moment in the mid-third quarter where I had an intrusive thought, and I was like, oh my goodness, are the Cavs right now the more physical team than New York? Because we were doing to the Knicks what the Knicks do to us, and you have Josh Hart go down with that injury, and he's been a thorn in our side. I was like, man, this could be a big moment in this season because you had just flexed your muscles against the Charlotte Hornets. Then you absolutely decimated the New Orleans Pelicans. It would be like, this would be a great way to win 3 in a row. This is an exclamation point in prime time on Christmas Day. And then the meltdown happens. Then you can't get a rebound. Then you're out rebounded 8-1 in that fourth quarter. Mitchell Robinson to Jarrett Allen alone. And that's ultimately, in my opinion, how you come up short in that game. Coach, as you were watching that, what'd you make out of how the Cavs went down? Because, dude, that was frustrating to watch there.
Well, even more in the third quarter, I was with you. Like, the physicality I thought was there, but the early start, they got off to just a blazing start, passing the ball, moving the ball. Obviously, I thought the previous two games, they had such bench help. And, and I was talking earlier in this week, they lost Ty Jerome, Karis LeVert, Strus is not playing, George Niang, that chemistry thing. I feel like their chemistry has improved over the last couple games. But it comes down to, just like it does in any sport, you got to make a play when it's important, right? First quarter, second, third quarter, but that fourth quarter, when you need a rebound, when you need a stop, that's what they seem to struggle with. That's kind of the MO of the Cavs. And once again, I'm going to be more on the positive side of it, because I think, once again, for me, it comes down to what do they do in the playoffs, and are they building to the playoffs, and are they doing things now that will help them win in the playoffs? I don't particularly know that, but I will be honest with you, that's where I'm judging it, right? Because they've gotten in and they've been kind of pushed around and bullied in the playoffs. So are they building towards that? I thought the toughness was better, but again, you got to make a play. Whatever sport it is, you got to make a play, and that fourth quarter is kind of when the good teams make those plays.
And this was a measuring stick game. At least it should have been, right? Because we were all anticipating that the playoffs are going to come down to Cleveland Cavaliers versus New York Knicks. So, while I agree with you, because we said all summer, regular season doesn't matter. Donovan Mitchell said it himself after they got bounced out of the playoffs. He said we could go 82-0 next year and nobody will care because it's about what you do in the postseason. I guess the thing to me is, okay, now you've played 35% of your games around there. The rubber got to hit the road at some point. These games count the same as the ones in April count. So, right now you're the 7th seed. Right now you're a play-in team. And this is the most expensive roster in the history of the NBA. It's the lone team in the second apron. We had reports earlier this week, and then they did win 2 in a row, to their credit, that Dan Gilbert was getting a little bit unhappy, that maybe Kenny Atkinson could find his way onto the hot seat. And, well, I think that, maybe it's a little bit premature for that stuff. It is these games still matter, and you want to try to find a way to win in the postseason. This was supposed to be your pressure cooker year, where it was conference finals or bust. For a lot of people, it was maybe even NBA finals or bust. And unfortunately, when I watched that game yesterday, while yes, you did make steps because you were in there with a really good Knicks team on the road, and you were up 17 at one point, so you learned that you're capable of contending, you ultimately didn't walk away with a victory. And it was another fourth quarter collapse, and it was another showing out of one specific player in my mind. I want to throw this out there now. I'm of the belief that you're not going to win a title with Jarrett Allen on your roster. You just can't. In the way that the current NBA is set up, I get that people have their gripes with the 2 small guards and the 2 bigs and what that fit looks like. I just think from like a mentality that you have to win a championship in the NBA, you can't have a guy out there in the fourth quarter that's getting out rebounded 8-1. Not to Karl Anthony Towns, who's a good player and an all-star, but to Mitchell Robinson, who plays a reserve role and comes off the bench. It's the same thing that Thomas Bryant did to Jarrett Allen last year in the playoffs with the Indiana Pacers. Like, you just can't have a guy on your roster like that and expect to win a championship.
Well, the thing we don't know, and I'm going to clap back just a little bit, is we don't know what his chemistry involved. Does he, in terms of defensive calls and all those things that, there's certain glue guys. Is he a glue guy? We don't know that. But yeah, his physicality in the fourth quarter, his inability to get key rebounds and kind of get bullied at time, that's got to change. And I don't know if that does change. But that would be my only thought, is what is the chemistry they had last year? You don't see that chemistry, especially when the second unit comes in as a guy who likes all sports and kind of likes the flow of sports.
Yeah.
When the Browns come up, when the Cavs come in with their second unit, they all of a sudden lose their chemistry, in my opinion. They don't have that flow. They don't have that ability to pass. There's no Ty Jerome or Karis LeVert where there's free-flowing kind of offense. They kind of get stagnant. Now, does Jarrett Allen, going back to the first group, does he help with defensive calls, like I said? Does he help with, setting up the defense? Does he help with, because he's not getting the key rebound? And that's what it really comes down to. When people have their grudges with Jarrett Allen, when I see it, it's he doesn't get the key rebound when we need a key rebound. And that's, the scoring he doesn't have to do, but that's what he's got to do. He plays really good defense. It's can he get the rebound? And to this point, he hasn't. So he's kind of bringing that criticism upon himself.
Yeah, and I think another piece of this too, and like the soft word gets thrown out there a lot, and I think like if you're playing any professional sport at that high of a level, like you're probably not soft to the same textbook definition that you or I would use it as, but like he's had an impossible job shaking that label, because this consistently happens to him. Like, this happens to him.
Well, he's a nice guy, right? He's nice. He's almost too nice. He's almost too nice.
I'm sure he like after they lost that game, he was probably going around New York City looking for Pokemon. Like maybe he found a Bulbasaur, but he was not able to find a key rebound in the fourth quarter to help lead the Cavs to a victory. And that's ultimately what we're after here. Like, this is a very important season for this basketball team, so it comes across to the fans as you got a guy that just doesn't really care.
Do you think his personality hurts him with being so nice?
I think his personality it definitely hurts him in the way that he's perceived with the fans. And then when he consistently delivers performances like what happened to him yesterday in the late fourth quarter, like I just don't think that helps his cause per se. 216-474-0092. Are you guys feeling better or worse about the Cavs after what happened to them on Christmas? Let's go out to Doylestown, where Rick's got some thoughts on the Cavs. What's going on, Rick?
Hey, good morning. Happy holidays to you guys.
Yeah,
happy holidays.
Feeling better or worse about the Cavs?
A little of both. And I will say this, I would blame a lot of it yesterday. First of all, like we all, I think we agree that the regular season is about building the team ready for the playoffs this year. So I think Kenny's taking a little different approach to it. But the one thing that irritated me yesterday was for the last 7 minutes of the game, it was Dean Wade and Sam Merrill and no Tyson Hunter. And those two in the third quarter were the reason we got out to that lead. Tyson and Hunter are superior defenders compared to Merrill and Wade. And, they have these guys, I don't know, I think he didn't make any adjustments at all. During New York made that big run, there was no adjustment at all. No lineup change, no nothing. So I blame a little bit on the coach. Maybe he had to see what he's got going. But Jalen Tyson's up and coming, and DeAndre Hunter is definitely our best sixth man. So, I'm positive. I love the way that when they went in there at the beginning of the game, they smacked them in the face. They showed them they were there to play, and I'm very proud of the Cavs for that. But the coach, he let me down a little bit yesterday. So it's a growing process, man. Let's have a little patience. And in defense of Jarrett Allen, I do agree with you guys to an extent. He's not the physical guy. But if you look at some of those possessions, a lot of time Jared's main objective is he's covered up the deficiencies of our guards, so he's moving over before he gets a chance to get the rebounds. He's not in the best position all the time. I think if he were to stay strictly on Robinson or on Towns and not worry about trying to cover the other guy's mistake, there might be a little more success there. the lineup change was just, or the rotation just bothered me a little bit yesterday. But there's definitely more positive than negative. I hated seeing that loss, but the Cavs are going to be fine, man. Let's let him figure it out. We're going to be all right.
All right, Rick. Appreciate the call. And I think the criticism of Atkinson is warranted because Jalen Tyson has been, one, a tremendous find for this team all year, but two, he was balling. I think it just comes to, and Coach, you could probably speak to this as well, he's got a comfortability with Sam Merrill and Dean Wade, are two guys that have been in this system for now 2 years, whereas Jalen Tyson is a little bit of a younger player that he probably doesn't have that same trust and comfortability with in a big marquee, nationally televised fourth quarter game against the team that you're anticipating seeing at some point later in this season.
Well, I'm a big Hunter fan, so I will start with that. I'm a big Hunter fan. I think Tyson has been outstanding this year. Bring great energy. He's kind of a juice guy, right? So you need those. They've lost. I was looking at the. They scored 50, I think 57 against the Hornets, the bench, and then they scored 55 in their win over the Pelicans. Pretty solid yesterday too, but they lost all that, like I said, that second kind of flow. Maybe that's why Hunter went, to the second unit. Tyson's a guy that brings great juice in the second unit. My question is, why would Atkinson be on the hot seat? If we're all judging him on the playoffs, isn't that where he should be judged then? Isn't that kind of where, like, I'm at a loss, the thought of that him being on the hot seat. And, I've actually heard the comparison to him and Kevin. And if everything comes down to the playoffs, what do you think? I think he should be judged there then.
So I think I agree with you. Okay. When you look at Kenny Atkinson, this is a guy that has had success throughout his entire career. You look at last season. I don't think you win 64 regular season games by accident. What happened to them in the playoffs happened to them in the playoffs. They were injured, whatever. But I think in the NBA, it's easy to look at the coach and be like, unfortunately, you gotta go. Especially for where the Cavs sit, where they're in this second apron, and because of how much money they've spent, it's hard for them to make trades. So, they can't aggregate salaries. They can't, there's so much they can't do in terms of improving this roster. So when you have this pressure cooker season where you are anticipating NBA Finals or bust, or at least conference finals, where you should be on this warpath to play the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the markings of this so far is that it's not even coming close. You're a 7th seed. You're the play-in right now, and a play-in team usually isn't making that kind of noise. I think it is easy to look at the coach and be like, well, something has to change. It's almost impossible for us to make a trade mid-season that's going to significantly improve the roster. So you look at, what can you do? You can't pick up guys. Free agency's more or less over unless you want to give Tristan Thompson a call, which at the current juncture, I wouldn't hate. At least he could cause a fist fight at practice and maybe toughen some of these guys up a little bit. But so you can't really significantly improve the roster. I think it's unfortunate, but you just look at Kenny and be like, well, it's on you. I will agree. If they fired Atkinson, even though some of that smoke has been out there this week for whatever reason, I'd be stunned. Just because you did it in 2016 where you fired David Blatt, you promote Ty Lue, and you win the title, but you had LeBron, and that's a big difference. That's a big mitigating factor. I don't think that necessarily happens this year.
I just don't, it makes, when I hear those things, it's kind of, and once again, you try to take the bias out as a coach, but I'm thinking to myself, you go into this season, what we did last year with the second unit, what we did to make runs in games, and all the things we did with the rotations and all that, it didn't work in the playoffs. So is he trying things to try different rotations? Once again, I'm a big Hunter fan, I'm a big Tyson fan, and I agree with the caller. You want, especially Hunter for me, he brings such length out there, and that's kind of what they struggle with in playoffs, those long wing players, and he seems like a guy who can kind of take that away from teams. But the rotations that we used didn't work. So is he building towards, I don't know, I think you got to let it play out a little bit, right? Let's get to those playoffs. Now, if we're having this you and I are having this conversation because they've been bounced in round 1 or round 2, then we go, yeah, maybe there needs to be a change. But for me, the idea of him being bounced right now, once again, though, I say this all the time, the expectations are big, right? If you don't have expectations, you become apathetic. That's okay. Maybe there needs to be a little pressure on those guys.
Coach, I don't know. I'm sitting here. I'm getting myself back to worked up, as worked up as I was yesterday. I want to take the moral victory for the Cavs because they did show things, especially coming off back-to-back wins against teams that they should have beaten, and they did. Like, I want to be able to take the glass half full look at this thing and be like, hey, you know what? You were up 17 against the Knicks. You want to face this team later in the season when it means a whole lot more come playoff time. But it's just like, I can't shake the fact that as long as Jarrett Allen continues to deliver in performances like what he delivered yesterday, like, this is year 10 for a guy. Like, I don't think you're going to learn how to overcome the moment. I don't think you're going to learn how to overcome even Mitchell Robinson, who out-rebounded him 8-1 in the fourth quarter. Like, I'm sitting here just trying to find a path for the Cavs this season. We're looking at, the national shows right now have Oklahoma City Thunder and San Antonio Spurs. Like, these are the teams that you've got to beat if you want to hoist the Larry O'Brien this season. And I just, like, current state, I don't see it. And there's time. There is. You got 40-some games of basketball to go. But as currently constructed, I'm not seeing it, man. I'm just not.
Well, I'm gonna. First of all, there's no such thing as a moral victory in sports. I really don't believe that. I don't think there's. You learn from a loss. I think you tuck your tail and you respond from a loss, but I don't think you learn from it as much as people think. I'm with you. But the only thing I would say is I think there has to be, I said it before, an element of patience, because going into the season, you said it best. Donovan said we can go 82-0. And you're right. For me, I'm thinking I don't really care, especially in, I don't really start watching basketball, to be honest with you, until bowl season's over. I mean, I'll have it on there, but I'm not turning it on until after bowl season, because that's when it starts to get real down the stretch. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they are saying what we did last year, we got in the playoffs, it didn't work. We're trying some things. We're going to make this work. Maybe in those critical situations, maybe someone else is in. Who knows? We don't know the whole story. I'm going to err on the side. First of all, there's no such thing as moral win. So yesterday was a loss. You tuck your tail and you try to figure it out. But I'll have this conversation when we get to the playoffs, and I will say because hopefully we're saying, yeah, their struggles are in this season that helped us now.
Alrighty, our Surfside Cavs update brought to you by Surfside. 216-474-0092. Let's go out to the phones. Matt's in his car. Got some thoughts on what's going on with the Cavs. What's going on, Matt?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Good morning. Happy holidays.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope you guys had a great Christmas. So here's the problem. I hear people going after Kenny this morning, saying, you need to make a coaching change. We can't do that again. We just went through, the whole 4-year deal with Bickerstaff, and you can change the coach once, but I feel like if you're having these discussions again, it's not the coach, it's the players. And fairly or unfairly, I think the bullseye is centered right at Jarrett Allen. Like most people look at him just getting pushed around by Robinson and Towns, and he just. I think people are just gonna always look back, and I'm pretty sure he was the one at MSG a few years ago that said the lights are too bright and
brighter than we expected.
And fairly or unfairly, I think everyone just now still has that preconceived notion with Allen that they're soft. And I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not exactly a expert on like the whole second apron stuff with the NBA stuff, but like I was looking at, I don't know if the cat. I don't know what Markkanen's contract is. Like, man, that looks stupid. The fact that we got rid of him now. I don't know if like Utah just re-signed him or like Zubac from the Clippers. Like, we just need someone that can like get in there, like a big, tall guy that can muck it up in there, out rebound, and like, I don't know, but it's just kind of like it almost feels like that 08-09 period of the Cavs where it's like you feel like you like constructed everything a certain way and then the NBA completely shifts a different way, and it's like just kind of feel like we're like a rudderless ship right now. But I will say this, at least Dan Gilbert probably gave his employees a decent Christmas bonus this year. I'm sure Paul Dolan could only afford a 6-month membership to the Jelly of the Month Club.
Matt, thanks for the call,
A
buddy.
little shot at the Guardians at the end there.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of activity to talk about there, so I don't think we're going to get any guards talk in on the show. That might be the extent of it, but like here's the thing with Jarrett Allen. Like, here's another piece of that. Like Karl Anthony Towns is an all-star center, and congratulations to him. Jarrett Allen's setting up families now as he gets that late fourth quarter rebound and then proposes to Jordan Woods after the game. So Jarrett Allen responsible for what's going to be I hope a successful marriage there for Big Purr. But like, it was Mitchell Robinson that was doing it to him. So like, if you're in a fist fight with a fellow all-star center, like, I can't be mad. Karl Anthony Towns, great player. That's why the Knicks went out there and got him, and that's why the Knicks share these Eastern Conference title expectations with our Cavs here. But like, I can't get behind the fact that I've seen this guy get beaten, abused by Thomas Bryant, who's thankfully here on the Cavs. Like, I'd almost like to see a little bit more of him and see if he could bring some of that physicality that he brought to Jarrett Allen when he was on the Pacers last year. Now Mitchell Robinson, who did it to Jarrett the first time during Donovan's first crack at the playoffs here in Cleveland, and then now again last night. Like, I can't ignore that. Like, it's not the upper echelon of the league that's doing this to him. It's these guys that, like, Mitchell Robinson ain't doing this on a night in, night out basis. Like, he's bringing his best against Jarrett Allen because he sees his opposition and he knows, like, it's lunchtime. This is a guy that I know that I can have my way with. And to that point, Jarrett's just overmatched.
Well, it's in sports, obviously all games, it's a game of matchups, and those big physical guys inside, they do give Jarrett Allen issues. Now he's got to be able to counter that with length. He's got to be able to counter that with what he does best, and he doesn't do that in those matchups. Now Bryant, once again, do you change the rotation? The in sports, the next is always the best thing, right? The backup quarterback, the next guy in. There's something to do with chemistry, too. So for me, this Cavs team is still looking for chemistry, especially losing all those guys. When you look at, I was trying to look at, like, what are some of the things that happened last year? And the second unit was so good each and every night. And that second unit, none of those guys are there and right now, and they're kind of still counting on guys who are still learning. Tyson's been great, but he's still in that learning process. And I think it all comes down to, once again, it's like the quarterback in football. It's too much credit, too much blame. For me, he's getting way too much blame for this right now. Now, those rebounds are on him, but there's other factors involved.
Yeah.
But the only way you shot that, you got to go out and do it.
Because, dude, like, they like, to your point, like, he was playing so bad, they took him off the floor. Your $20-some million center is missing in action the last couple of minutes of the game because he was getting beat up so bad. But the guy that they replaced him with, and Evan Mobley, couldn't get a stop either. It was more of the same. So, yeah, while Jarrett Allen is shouldering a big piece of the blame, I do think at some point, it goes back to the conversation that we had last segment where some people want to put Kenny Atkinson on the hot seat. It's like, well, how many coaches are we going to cycle through before we look at the core four and say, hey, maybe this fit just isn't what we want it to be. Maybe this fit just isn't going to be the group that could get this team to where we want them to go. Even though we like all of these guys, and these guys individually are all really good players, and we've used so much time, money, resources, energy into developing them up. It's like, well, at some point the results have to come true as well. In this current group, whether you want to put the blame on, Allen, or there's a lot of DG detractors out there that want to put it on Garland. It's like, maybe this collective isn't what we want it to be, and I think we're going to get our answer on that at some point here very soon, whether they shake things up before February 5th trade deadline, or if they just flame out in the playoffs like what they've done the last couple of seasons. I want to squeeze in Larry in Elyria, who's got some thoughts on why the Cavs lost on Christmas. What's going on, Larry?
Hey, happy holidays, Nick, you and Coach. What I saw, you guys, most time at the end there, we couldn't finish at the hoop. If you go back and look at that game, and there the fourth quarter at the rim there, offensively, I think that was a major issue right there. We probably lost close to 8 to 12 points at least. We could go at the rim and finish the hoop. That's my opinion.
Larry, appreciate the call. I had a basketball coach growing up. I'll give him a shout. A shout out, Coach Larry Pierce. He would always tell us, and like this was like fifth grade basketball, right? But it's true, and it rings true in the NBA. he would repeat it ad nauseum, and it's like as a kid it would get under your skin, but now I'm like, man, he was onto something. Free throws and layups win basketball games. That's what he would tell us that on repeat. Sounded like a broken record, but it's true. Like if the Cavs made their layups yesterday late in the fourth quarter, you could have even overcome the rebound disparity that was certainly on display all throughout the fourth quarter, because again, it was a game where like the Cavs won the total rebound battle. They got beat on the offensive glass. Like it was a game that they should have won and they didn't, which is why I think you've got a lot of people frustrated.
Well, my point here's an interesting look at this. What the key in all sports is to set people up for success. We're saying 10 years, and I thought that was interesting. Allen's in his 10th year. I didn't even think about that. And if this is something he can't do, then don't make him do it. Right? If you sign Bryant because he's a bigger, tougher guy and he gave him issues, well, this is a game of matchups. And usually we only say this about Allen in the Knicks series, or these series that have these guys inside that are kind of tough and big and don't have a tremendous skill set, but are guys who are physical. Well, I don't care how much you pay him. Maybe in those matchups, you don't set him up. Don't put him in the situation for failure then. I don't know. I've always learned, my dad always taught me, don't worry about what a kid does poorly. Worry about what he does well and focus on that. Obviously, this has been an issue for Allen for a long time. If the Cavs are going with this, then they got to maybe adjust that thought process when they play the Knicks, when they play the teams that are going to get after them up front, because obviously maybe he brings something with chemistry. And it's really only these certain matchups that really give him issues. Maybe that's the adjustment.
And I do think there's something to be said on the phone as well, where we're like, it's the lights were too bright thing, like where he just has that in his makeup, where going to that Madison Square Garden, it just doesn't do well for him. The good news is for the Cavs is like they do have some upcoming measuring stick games, like Houston. That's a good basketball team right there. You saw what they did to the Lakers on Christmas Eve, on Christmas evening. The San Antonio Spurs, Wembanyama. I mean, what's he gonna do to Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley? So like you've got a couple of games here before the new year to figure out what you've got with this squad. But
does he give him the issues, because he's not overly physical, right? Or can he hang in there?
I think we find out, Coach, because like I think it turns into like does to your point, does Jarrett tuck his tail in between his legs now after this bad showing and after this bad loss, or against two bigs that are premier in the NBA in Şengün tomorrow night against Houston, and then Wemby, who's one of the premier young players in the league? Like, can you bounce back? Can you respond? And I do think the Cavs will be looking at that, because you're in this high pressure season where you can't lose, or else changes will be coming this offseason. You only got till February 5th to make some trades and to shake things up, and you could be looking at a situation with Jarrett Allen where maybe you just decide it's addition by subtraction. And even if we have to trade him away for a bag of basketballs, we're going to trade him away for a bag of basketballs if it means getting him out of here and clearing the way for Evan Mobley. That's our Cavs update, brought to you guys by Surfside. Surfside Cavs update brought to you by Surfside.